Pessimism is destructive. Realism lacks imagination. And optimism opens all the doors. Pessimism, realism, and optimism aren't just academic philosophies. They're actually strategies for life. And we should choose which team we want to be on very carefully, because the strategy you choose will be a greater determinant of your success, your happiness, and the impact you have on the communities to which you belong than anything else. This is a picture of my brother and I. That's me on the top bunk, and that's my brother, John, who's my business partner, on the bottom bunk. We're the youngest of 6 kids. We grew up about 10 minutes from here. If you went to visit my parents today, you would see albums and albums and bookcases filled with photos of them. This is one of 3 photos of my brother and I in our childhood. I'm not sure what happened. I think my parents just burnt out and lost the camera. You know, if you look at the window, you can tell that it's winter and that the heat is not working. If you look at the radiator that the heat's supposed to be coming out of, you can tell that my brother's been snacking on the lead paint. And if you ever met him, he's a bit of a space shot. I showed the photo to my mom not long ago, and I said, Mom, I can forgive you for losing the camera. You had 6 kids, you didn't have enough money, I understand it. But how about putting some damn sheets on the bed? This is my mom. My mom was the first powerful optimist in my life. My mom didn't just tell us goodnight stories. She bites into life. She became the big bad wolf. She acted it out. She became the princess and danced around the room. My mom is one of those people who taught us at a very early age that the little things in life are the big things. Maybe the greatest gift that my mom gave us was a simple ritual at the dinner table. She sat down, all 8 of us, and she'd say, tell me something good that happened today. That might sound very simple, but it had a huge impact on our lives. Tell me something good that happened today. The next time you start a meeting, start with that. Tell me something good that happened today. Next time you sit down with your friends or family. If not, you sometimes enable people to complain about what's happening, to point the finger, to pour their resources into what's wrong rather than what's right. But if you start with that, you get people to focus their resources on what's working, and you build on that. It's a matter of knocking something versus building something. When my brother and I got out of college, armed with no money and no business acumen, but good advice from my mom, we got on the road. We started designing T-shirts, and we spent 5.5 years traveling in that van. We called the van the Enterprise because when we were in it, and whatever money we had was in it, and the inventory was in it, it was the whole enterprise. We also called it the Enterprise because we told each other we were going to boldly go where no T-shirt guy has gone before. And so we got in it, and we started traveling, and we had 5.5 years of really bad ideas and no success. While we were wandering and trying to figure this out, we had a conversation that changed our lives. It was about how the media inundates us with negative information. We talked about how pessimism is destructive, even corrosive at times. The fact that the media always reinforcing what's wrong makes us depressed, makes us live in fear. In fact, it preys on our fears. It's the reason that some of us don't like to watch the 6 o'clock news. It really isn't the 6 o'clock news. It's the 6 o'clock violent murder report. And that's why sometimes we don't want to turn it on. The fact is, bad things happen, but good things happen too. And we talked about what the impact of that is. The constant barrage of bad information, always reinforcing that we're moving in the wrong direction. When reality shows over time, humanity has moved in the right direction. We're living longer, we've cured a lot of diseases, there's actually more financial equality in the world than there ever was. You go back 2,000 years, everybody in the world was poor. If you weren't a king or a queen, you were poor. So is it perfect today? No. But it's moving in the right direction. Optimism versus pessimism allows us to be solution-oriented, pick our heads up and look around. We talked about creating a symbol that maybe would do the opposite of the media, that would enable people to celebrate the little things in life and focus on what's right with their lives and what's right with the world. So what energy would that create? It's very clear as we grow older, as we're younger, we live our lives like this. We're born optimists. We're wide open. We go out to discover everything. And as we get older, many things impact our lives, and we often close up. We don't remain that young optimist. The symbol we created was about maintaining that childlike optimism. It's called Jake. My brother's been my business partner for 20 years, and this is the one and only contribution he's ever made. He drew Jake with a magic marker and crayons, and we had a keg party when we got back to Boston. And at the keg party, we put all of our artwork up on the walls, and we asked friends to come over and tell us what they liked and didn't like. It didn't say life is good. It just had Jake. It actually said draw underneath. It was originally meant to be an artist. And one girl that was at our party, she gave us the answer. She drew a circle around Jake and an arrow, and she wrote, "This guy's got life figured out." And my brother and I liked that. In the morning, we woke up at about the crack of noon, and we walked out there, and we looked at what she wrote, and we decided to distill that down to 3 words: life is good. Now, for 5.5 years, we had lots of harebrained ideas. This was the first one that worked. 2 days later, we got in the street in Cambridge, and that's my brother John standing in front of McDonald's. We printed 48 T-shirts, and when we were done printing the 48 T-shirts, we had $78 left between us. We got out in the street and we sold 48 T-shirts in 45 minutes. It was A, commercially viable. It sold. People were starving for optimism. That was clear. B, a very broad demographic bought it. A big guy that was with a leather jacket, a Harley guy, came up and bought an extra large. A super preppy school teacher that couldn't have enough Burberry on, she came up and she bought the same shirt, right? And then a kid on a skateboard with purple hair, and he was about 16 years old, so different than the others, bought the same thing. I don't know who else bought it, but I saw those three, and it blew my mind. My brother and I looked at each other, and we knew we had it. We just didn't know what to do. Despite not knowing what to do, the business grew underneath our feet. We opened up a shop down on Cape Cod, just a wholesale account. And a woman called us the next day and said, or a week later, and she said, "You know, I sold all the shirts. Does that guy, Jake, does he eat ice cream?" I said, "Nobody will." We put an ice cream cone in his hand, and we sent it down, and those sold even better. And she called her sister up in Vermont and said, well, we have a shop that's on a bike path. We like our mountain biking up here. Does that guy Jake ride a bike? And I got smart on this one. I said, "No, but he will if you pay in advance." So the business started to grow under our feet. And at about $3 million in 2000, we couldn't believe this was happening. And it was sort of our dream unfolding. Here's where the sort of realists came into the picture. The realists were 2 consultants. And they showed up and they told us that it's amazing that in 6 years, we haven't spent any money on advertising. But it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable because all of these charts and graphs that they showed us indicated that over time, you've got to pour some funds into traditional radio, television, print media, et cetera, and there were all these case studies. So we put aside some money and we decided to do that. What we didn't count on was this. We got mail from people who faced tremendous adversity. I'd love to say we set out to create some kind of integrated model of for-profit and non-profit, but I had never heard of an integrated model, and still to this day, my brother could not spell integrated. So I want to read you one of the types of letter, an example of a letter that we got. It came from one of these 10-year-old boys. Dear Bert and John, my name is Alex. I think I need my glasses. Hope I have my glasses. Dear Bert and John, my name is Alex. I have a brother, Nick, and we are 10. We both have extra challenges in the world, but at the end of the day, we still have each other. We were both born early and weighed only 1 pound, so we had a lot of growing to do. When I was born, I had my leg amputated. Nick is blind. Me and Nick have all of your shirts with all the things we love doing best. But if you ask us what we really love most and what makes us the most happy and laugh the most, it is just being together. I now know that Nick has more challenges than I do. I love that part because the kid's 10 years old. You know, he's saying it as if he's been around the world and back. I now know that Nick has more challenges than I do. But he says and does things that make me laugh and forget feeling bad. I don't know how to describe it other than to say that I love him. You're lucky to have a brother, too. He doesn't know my brother. I hope you do fun things together. Your friends, Alex and Nick. What do you do when you get a letter like that? We're trying to make a living. We're starting to have some success. So get to is the expression we took from these people. You get a letter from children like that, and we never at Life is Good ever say we have to do something again. We don't have to show up at a TED Talk today. We get to show up at a TED Talk. We don't have to go grocery shopping. We get to go grocery shopping because you get to look at the labels with your eyes. Next time you do the laundry and you're bitching and moaning about doing the laundry, think about doing it standing on one leg. We get to do the laundry and we get to stand on 2 legs. It's gratitude. Those children that wrote that letter, and we have thousands of them, they didn't ask for anything. They were celebrating life. They wanted to know in the next letter if my brother and I could come and surf with them. They weren't complaining about anything. They were celebrating how great life is. So we decided to have a pumpkin festival to raise money and awareness for kids facing difficult challenges. And our first pumpkin festival was up in Maine. I don't know if anybody's been to Maine in October, but it ain't bikini weather. This woman shows up, she's 26 months pregnant, right? And she's got a beach ball painted on her stomach. She's with Mr. Positive Man. I don't know who the guy is on the left, but we had him escorted from the premises. The event raised over $100,000, and it was galvanizing. That night, we went back to the hotel. Every penny of that money went to families of kids with life-threatening conditions. And we went back to the hotel that night, and we knew that for the rest of our lives would be dedicated to helping children that needed it. It was just a natural, and we sort of stumbled into it. The next year, the same consultants came to us, and they said, we like what you guys did. It was fun with the pumpkins, but trust us. You're cannibalizing your business. They couldn't see what we could see, and moreover, they couldn't feel what we were feeling. They told us once again not to put the money into pumpkin festivals because they showed us some information about our sales reps spending their time in pumpkin patches negotiating pumpkin sales that didn't have anything to do with selling T-shirts. We said, we understand, but we think there's some connection here with our community. And so instead of moving away from pumpkins, we hired this person as our logistics coordinator for pumpkin sales. And the business started to grow, the pumpkin business. I know it wasn't a money-making business, but it started to grow. In 2006, we actually broke the Guinness World Record for the most lit carved pumpkins in one place at one time on the Boston Common. And you know what? My brother and I didn't carve a single pumpkin. Citizens of Boston came out and did it. And most of them were under 25 years old. So they're the ones that we read about who were raised on video games, who are selfish, who are overly materialistic, who don't get out enough. They were out in the pouring rain carving pumpkins. And it raised over $500,000. $500,000 in one night. If you don't have a bucket list, make a bucket list. When my brother and I were traveling in the van, we made a bucket list, and one of the things on that list was that we'll break a world record. Well, if you're not a world-class athlete and you're not one of the smartest people in your classes, in order to break a world record, you have to do something stupid. And that's what we did. It wasn't breaking the record. It was getting people together, hundreds of thousands of people, and raising money for people who needed it. Today, when we survey our employees, the most important thing to them is the Life is Good Kids Foundation. The Life is Good Kids Foundation that began with the one pumpkin makes us all sleep like babies at night. When they go to work, whether they're a designer or a salesperson or a finance person or somebody in operations that ships at the warehouse, if they do their job well, they're helping kids. Our customer base knows because today we give 10% of all profitability to the Kids Foundation, that just by doing business with us, they help kids in need. One of the things we have to do for people in this complex world is make things simple, make it easy for them. With us, it's very easy. They do business with us, they're helping kids. The Pumpkin Festival has now become the Life is Good Music Festival. 30,000 optimists gather every year, and the event raises at least $1 million. If you buy a cold beer, that money goes to kids that need it. This is now kids that face violence, kids that face poverty, and kids that face life-threatening diseases like cancer. This is a picture of Michael Franti. We've had Dave Matthews and Jack Johnson, all these fantastic stars, but the common thread is they're celebrating life. Their lyrics are about celebrating life. All genres of music, all types of people get together. The community has grown. Neither my brother or I set out to understand how to build the business and how to grow that community, but something special has happened. In 1989, the internet was invented, and it's taken a little time. But if we're patient and we watch what's happening, the world is connected. The world is connected, and consumers have taken control from buyers. That's a wonderful thing, because consumers are starting to vote with their dollars. And if they believe that your organization is making the world a better place, they will build your business. The adverse is true. If they believe that your business is destroying or making the world a worse place, they will destroy your business. Both those things are taking place. That's the next step for free enterprise capitalism. It's a two-way conversation. It's a dialogue, and consumers have taken control. The business has grown now over $100 million. We're still focused on things that would otherwise be a distraction to a business, and we're pouring more resources into them every day. We're now connected with some of the best business people in the world. This is a picture of myself and Richard Branson. It has nothing to do with my talk. I just wanted you to know I hang out with Richard Branson. We believe that life is good is not an American message, but a human message. And our goal is to take this message everywhere in the world, spread good vibes, and help children everywhere we go. Finally, this is a picture of my mom. In the picture, it's last year. She's 87 years old. And as you can see, she still enjoys every day. She decided it was a good day to go for a swim with the dolphins, and I don't have to say much. You can just look at the expression on her face. 5 months ago, we got the news that my mom had lung cancer, and she wouldn't have that long to live. We fought it for about a month, trying to figure out exactly what we could do. However, she never smoked a cigarette in her life, but she had lung cancer, and there wasn't a whole lot we could do. About 30 days before my mom passed away, I got to sit down with her, and I asked her if there's anything in this last month, because her health seemed okay, that she'd like to do. I thought maybe she'd like to go to Europe. I didn't know what it was. She said no. She just wanted to stay home. She wanted to be with her 6 kids, 10 grandkids. She said, I'm the happiest I've ever been in my life. And I said, are you sure about that, Mom? She said, I'm positive. The arc of life is such that that day will come for all of us. After finding out that my mom didn't want to do anything, I was a little taken aback, and I didn't understand it at first. But what I realized after a few days is that my mom didn't have to make up for anything. My mom loved with all her heart, her whole life. She was wide open. She was an optimist like a child. When we live like that, we live powerfully. We connect people. We inspire people. We'll honor my mom for the rest of our lives. My last question to you is that when your time comes, and I'll ask it to myself, when our time comes, will we have to run around and play makeup for some of the things that we wish we did in our lives? Or will we answer the way my mom did when I went over the funeral arrangements with her, and I said, what do you think of everything? My mom said, it all sounds fine, but do me a favor after the funeral. I said, sure, anything. Throw me a party and make it a good one. Thank you.